A lot of you have been asking me what I think about chapter 127, especially after my review of the previous chapter. And I'm going to tell you right now. This chapter was... amazing. Yes, this chapter answered every single point and concern I've talked about, and much more. Goodbye, funny faces. Hello, faces of agony. Welcome back to Attack on Titan. This chapter was very heavy on the subtext, and almost every single panel held some deeper meaning behind it and addressed a much bigger topic. And also, I think I discovered a little change in the plot that made me sad, and we're going to talk all about it right now. Don't forget to subscribe and to give this video a little like. Also, my thank you video for 1000 subscribers is coming up soon, alongside new and exciting things that I planned for you on my channel. Yes, you brought me over 1000 subscribers, and that made me very emotional. But I will talk all about it in my next video, because now we're going to dive deep into chapter 127, named Anne's Eve. If you read a different name, it's because this is the official release. And when I heard it had a lot of changes from the non-official version, I decided to wait and give you the review on the official and final release. So, right from the start, the name of the chapter gives us a huge clue that this is probably the last day before the end, which means that this is probably also the last day in the actual timeline of Attack on Titan. The chapter begins with John daydreaming about the good life he and his future family will have after all they have done. I noticed a lot of people complaining about his wife looking like Mikasa. Personally, I don't think that this is Mikasa, but even if it is, let him have it. This is his own fantasy, and probably the only place where he and Mikasa could ever make a family. So be nice to John, people. John thinks about giving his family a better life, now that this island has a future. Soon, Hanji shakes him off from his dream and tells him to meet them outside. Jean thinks about all the things he did, and maybe that is enough, and if he just doesn't think about it and does nothing, then Eren will destroy the world, the island will be safe, and Jean will still get the promised life in the central district. But soon, we see him join Hanji and Mikasa outside. This scene was super important for a few reasons. First, it reminded us of the old Jean from the beginning of the show, a brat that just wanted an easy ride into the military police and to leave the Titan fighting to other people. And second, it gave us a view into the mind of a soldier that is about to go into a fight. And this time, it's not Flock crying before the fight with the Beast Titan. This is our boy, Jean. Therefore, we get a reality check right from the start to get us into the mood of the night before the end. Next, we go to Mikasa, Jean, and Hanji discussing the situation at hand. We can clearly see that Hanji is against Eren's actions, and even Mikasa admits that she doesn't want him to kill anyone. But Jean raises the question of what will happen to the island if they do stop Eren. Because after all, this all started because they wanted to protect the island. Therefore, if Eren is no longer around, there is no future for the island. And also, Jean's fantasy of a better future will never come to be. That is Jean's biggest conflict right now, and it seems that Jean is one of the few that actually agrees with Eren's actions, at least at some level. And not only that, he will also get rewarded if he let Eren do his thing. Hanji explains that from Marley's side, the rumbling happens after they attack the island, so maybe that will help them keep the island safe for a few years. But now that Eren has only 4 years to live, and they have no titans to protect them, will it even be enough? At some point, Hanji lashes out and screams that she will not accept genocide. Hanji talks sadly about the fact that she also considered running away from the situation, but she soon realized that she is still the 14th commander, and she feels like her comrades are watching her. And although most of them died without knowing the truth about the world, she says that none of them would have accepted this situation just to bring peace to the island. That would be narrow-minded of them to even think so. Her word sticks with Jean as he reminds himself that he is still a soldier. This scene is beautifully done. While Hanji talks, we see all of our fallen friends looking at her alongside Mikasa and Jean. We can see Mike and Erwin, Petra, Ian Dietrich, Marco, and many more, what shows us the emotional stress and the weight of command that Hanji is going through. Next, we go to one of the best moments in this chapter, and just like I said in my past video, all I wanted is for everyone to sit and talk and give us some context, and that is exactly what we got. Everyone is together around the fire, while Chef Hanji makes some food. Perfect. We have 3 points of view in this group of people. The warriors from Marley, the scouts, and the former Jägerists. From the get-go, we see different opinions surface as Magath announces that it is strange sharing a meal with the enemy. He asks why did they change their minds, because if they just let Eren destroy the world, they will get their wish, a paradise for the island devils. He tells them that they were so close to stopping Eren and Zeke, and if the scouts didn't interfere, they would have made it. Hanji tries to tell him that they do not want further killing, and then Magath asks if they finally see which side justice is on, and that was just the right trigger for our boy Jean. Here we actually see the main argument of the entire show. Jean claims that the people of Paradise only try to protect themselves from the titans that Marley sent on them, while Magath claims that this little piece of history is nothing next to the 2000 years of Eldia subjugating the world. We can absolutely see the problem. On one hand, the older generation is more set on his mind. They spent their entire life listening to the propaganda, and they represent one crucial side of this argument. Next to them, we have the younger generation, which also was fed with propaganda, but still has a chance to see things differently, like we see with Gabi, Falco, and the younger warriors. And lastly, we have the generation who grew up outside the conflict, who claims that they cannot be accused of things that happened over 2000 years ago and which they had nothing to do with. This is the essence of Attack on Titan, and basically the core argument of the entire story. One thing that I really liked about this scene is Jean defending Eren, saying it is all began with his mother being eaten because of Marley. And of course, Magath doesn't see this that way, because for him it's just a small fraction besides 2000 years of history. Hanji breaks up their fight, explaining to Magath that they are now risking their own island in order to solve the situation. And not even one panel away, we have our next conflict, when Annie asks Mikasa if she can kill Eren, if the situation calls for that. Mikasa answers that there are different ways to stopping Eren besides killing him, but Annie doesn't stop there. She claims that if Mikasa is not willing to even think about this scenario, then there is a chance that Mikasa will attack them if the warriors try to hurt Eren. She even says that Mikasa has always considered Eren to be the most important thing. This made Mikasa go into a fighting stance, and in response, Annie raises her hand, showing her famous ring. But soon, Annie says that she doesn't want to fight, she only wants her father to be safe on Marley, and if Mikasa can convince Eren, then it's all fine with her, and they should not fight before they try everything. This scene was some throwback to the fight of Annie and Mikasa, the fight that we never actually saw, and I'm sure Annie and Mikasa will still have this fight before the manga ends. Things cool off and everyone sits and eats together. Hanji says that they are 5 hours at full speed from the harbor. So of course, I calculated it for you. A horse max speed is 80 km per hour, saying they are carrying a wagon. That will drop their speed, let's say, to 70. That means that the scouts are about 350 km from the harbor right now. Hanji explained that they will rely on the Azumabito and discloses the fact that they have been working on a flying machine, a fact that Magath always suspected. Hanji says that they should use the machine to search for Eren, but they would sure run out of fuel in no time. And here, I want to pause for a minute. Remember I told you I discovered a plot change? This is exactly it. If you remember, the ability to make this machine fly was only because of a special substance that can only be found on Paradise Island, and it's also in charge of the operation of the ODM gear. This substance is called the Ice Burst Stone. Zeke mentioned it very briefly before, but I talked all about it in much more details in my video The Hidden Secrets of the ODM Gear, so go check it out to find out some truly amazing things that you might never heard before. It seems that Isayama gave up on the idea of the Ice Burst Stone, maybe because of the deadline he is facing or something else, but I personally really like that storyline, and I'm a bit sad that this issue will probably never be addressed again. Going back to the chapter, Magath tells Hanji that he took Jelena hostage in order to find out where Eren is. Of course, Jelena won't help them Marleyan bastards, and when Connie asks if she is not concerned that her homeland will also be destroyed by Eren, we get another twist when Magath informs everyone that Jelena actually is, and always was, from Marley. Pick clarifies it when she tells Jelena that they did a background check on her, and that she was born to a regular family on Marley, but she pretended all this time to be from another country ever since she met Zeke. Jelena came up with a story, a tale, of her saving the world, and Pieck says that she is impressed by Jelena's deep desires to make her made-up story come true. Jelena claims that she is no different and every one of them is looking at the idealistic idea of saving the world, and then she starts to set flames among everyone by mentioning each and everyone's wrongdoings. She talks about how Rhino broke the wall, killing all those people, betrayed his fellow friends, and how he has no problem teaming up with them once more. How Annie killed so many soldiers and also civilians inside Wolcina. She then turns to Armin, sarcastically telling him how brave and sensible he was to kill all those people in Marley using the Colossal Titan. She then turns to John, reminding him of how easy it was for him to shoot at Falco, which is just a kid, only to take down the Cart Titan on Marley. And of course, she doesn't forget about Gabby killing Sasha and clarify how close she was to everyone and how much they hate Gabby for that. At that moment, it seems that Jelena finished setting off fires, and the group continues to eat together. Jean actually thanks Jelena for putting everything out in the open, so now they can all focus on the mission at hand. But he also says that Jelena was so committed to her dream that she killed all of her comrades, and sarcastically tells her that after that she is still so considerate. Jelena doesn't seem to like his remark, and then she goes on to the knockout, and she mentions one of Jean's best friends, Marco. She then asks Jean if he ever questioned the warriors about Marco's death, and then Annie, Reiner and Jean all stare at each other. I just want to remind you that just like Eren, Mikasa and Armin, or Connie and Sasha, or Historia and Ymir, Marco was Jean's best friend, and he never figured out what really happened to him. As Jean is looking at them with an angry expression, Annie tells him that she was the one to take off Marco's ODM gear, and Reiner quickly adds that she was only doing what he told her to do. Reiner tells Jean everything that happened that day, and when Jean asks what were Marco's last words, Reiner answers, he said we haven't even tried to talk about it yet. Jean claims that if they indeed talked to each other before, all that mess could have been avoided, and Hanji says that they all fought each other, but at least now they are talking about the whole situation. Reiner then continues to talk about it, telling everyone about his mental breakdown, and how he couldn't believe Marco is being eaten in front of him, and how he killed the Titan right after. Jean asks him to stop, but Reiner keeps on telling how sorry he is. And at some point, Jean just loses it and launches himself at Reiner, punching his face out of anger. At some point, Gabi tried to protect Reiner and get kicked by Jean by mistake. Something about that scene. Remember when I didn't like when Annie kicked Reiner in front of Gabi in the last chapter? Well, this is exactly what I wanted Gabi to do, and of course, this amazing chapter answered my wishes. After protecting Reiner, Gabi, which is still on the ground, begs for the help of the scouts, saying she knows it is shameless to ask for this after all they have done to the people of Paradise. Jean leaves the group, and we see a beautiful moment when Annie tends to Reiner, which is still on the ground with his face all broken. The next happens all at once. As Magath reaches for Gabi, Jean is losing his mind in the forest, and Levi wakes up, and we go to the next morning, when Jean wakes Gabi and Falco and tells them that they are going to help them. He picks up Reiner, which is healed by now, off the ground, and they all go on their way. A lot of people ask me if this is a dream or something like that, but no. That night actually happened, and Isayama is pointing this out to us when Jean asks Gabi for forgiveness for kicking her. But on the other hand, he tells Reiner that he could never forgive him, and Reiner accepts it. When Magath asks Anji if they can really trust the Azumabito, the Cart Titan, which has been scouting in front of them, comes rushing and tells the group that the Jaegerists used the train to beat them all to the arbor, and they are all waiting there to fight them. And in the last panel, we see dear old Flock guarding Kiyomi with a gun in his hand. Oh my god, what a chapter! I really enjoyed it, and I assume a lot of you did as well. So please, tell me your thoughts about it. What do you think will happen now? I really am interested to know your thoughts. Another important thing. Just like months ago, I promised you that Annie will come back, I will say the same about my boy Reiner right now. If you think Reiner is going to end like a punching bag, I promise you, you are mistaken. Reiner will return to have his moment, and the armor will rise again. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want to see more like that, don't forget to subscribe and to turn on all notifications to not miss any of my future videos. And of course, come say hi to me on your favorite social media. I'm literally everywhere, just like the coronavirus, only not contagious. Thank you so much for joining me today, my Titan-loving friends, and I will see you real soon in my 1000 subscribers thank you video. And until then, let me just remind you all to dedicate your hearts for humanity, inside and outside the walls.